Yeah, we were on time.
You're not
okay, well, I hit record, so we are live. I will post the announcement.
Are you doing IC?
I'm doing well.
All right, then I guess we'll get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the November 2021 state election results show. Happy daylight savings time end day. Joining me today are APG Revival, our head elections clerk.
Evening, everyone.
I see one of the head election clerks.
Hiya.
Along with representatives from the Democratic and Republican parties. So for the Republicans, we have Guns.
Hey, how are y'all?
And for the Democrats, we have Kirschgater.
Hey, shoot.
All right, and as a reminder, the way we are going about these results is the same as always. We'll be going from east to west, reporting first from rural areas, then moving to the city. So we'll begin in Atlantic, and we will end, like always, in Fremont. So before we begin, I suppose we should go over expectations, right? So let's start with you guys. What is the GOP expecting coming into this election?
Well, the GOP is really hoping to make gains across the state assemblies. We have been lacking in some recent state elections, and we're hoping to make up those losses. We're also hoping to finally flip the state of Atlantic. That is one of the that is something our party's been trying to do now for the last few years, along with winning Dixie back, winning back the governorship. We believe Seldom is going to produce a strong showing in the state, along with Governor Compt winning re-election. That is something really big that we really have a lot of faith is going to happen. And finally, we have a lot of faith in our assembly tickets across Sierra, Dixie, Chesapeake. I already said Atlantic and Superior. And I want to shout out Bran running for lieutenant governor and Cube. I think they're both going to do better than polls are showing.
All right, thank you. Kushgater, what about you? What are the Dems expecting in this election?
I think we're just kind of expecting to maintain our majority and expand it. I think we've been doing pretty good on a state level, and I'm just hoping to see a continuation of that. Also with the state of Greater Appalachia, I'm really hoping we can keep Gouge and Demarius. And then the Dixie race, we're hoping for Tripp to pull that one out. Polls look pretty good. I think we're going to do about as good as we expect, which is pretty good.
Thank you. And with that, let's go straight into our elections. So first off, let's start in the Atlantic Commonwealth. We're doing something a bit new. Let's introduce everyone to the party list very quickly first. So on the Democratic side, we have a lot of incumbents who are already in the Assembly, while in the Republican Party, we have quite a lot of fairly big names. Of course, we have Nam, who's been big in White House affairs recently. We have former Senator Cody. We have Guds, who's here with us right now. And we have quite a lot of people actually in this list. And finally, the wild card here is that we have Marilee Putrid, who is an independent, who is also running for the Assembly. And as you can see on the right in our sidebar, like always, we are getting some partial results trickling in. When we are confident enough to make a projection, the AP will do so for the governor's races. So with that said, in Atlantic, we have these polls as well that show the Republicans just on the brink of a majority. But let's see if they can pull it out, and let's go to the results. And in these results, we have the Democrats on 37, the Republicans, unfortunately, on 42, and Marilee Putrid on 20, which means that there's going to be another split assembly with the independent holding the balance of power, and they will be able to decide who controls the speakership. And so, analysis from our HECs.
Yeah, this is fascinating result. Marilee Putrid, I wonder how she'll negotiate and who she can basically act as the kingmaker, and where she'll come in for and what her demands will be to give either party the speakership. That's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much exactly what you're expecting here tonight. If I'm the Republicans, I guess I'm excited that the Democrats don't have an outright majority. There's at least a chance at making a majority. But I guess we'll have to see what exactly Putrid's demands are going into this assembly.
Yeah, thank you. Party leaders, quick reactions to AC and expectations going into GA. Let's start with you, Gunn.
Well, this result was one that we were hoping to widen. We were hoping to win a larger majority than 11 million votes. With that said, the Republican Party wants to be first to say that Merely Putrid is one that we are more than willing to work with. The Republican Party, the Atlantic Republican Party especially, is one that aligns with her values a lot more than the Democratic Party in the Atlantic. So we just want to make that first statement. And going into the Greater Appalachia, the Republicans are truly hopeful that we will outperform the numbers in the polls.
Thanks. And what about for the Democrats?
I think it's a little disappointing. Kind of sad that we didn't keep a majority here. Certainly better than a Republican majority and them taking over the speakership. But I don't know. Hopefully we can work this one out. It's a little disappointing on the votes. Going into Greater Appalachia, though, I have great confidence that we'll keep a majority there.
Thank you. And so let's go to GA. And in GA, let's look again at the lists. This is fairly expected. We are basically seeing incumbents across the board. Although the interesting thing, though, is that the incumbent lieutenant governor is at number 5, and the incumbent governor is at number 6 on the Democratic list, which could result in some interesting results if the Dems get that far. So let's turn now to the polls. And in the polls, we have the Democrats on the brink between 5 seats and 4, while the Republicans are trailing behind, although they've made up quite a bit of the gap since day 0. So now let's go to the results. And in these results, the Democratic Labor Party on 65 has won 5 seats, while the Republicans are on 2. Now, if I could bring your attention back to the list that we had on the screen earlier, this means the Democrats have elected 5 members up to and including incumbent Lieutenant Governor Demarius Manetti. And of course, this has an implication. And the implication being that Bran is going to win the Lieutenant Governor race by default, because we have reached number 5 on the Democratic list and eliminated their lieutenant governor candidate. And so these are the results in Greater Appalachia. Let's go to the HCCs for analysis.
This is a fascinating result, and I can't wait to see how the Goog-Bran administration functions and what kind of wacky hijinks ensue from this split government.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and jump in here. That party leaders had quite an extension, I believe, by a day of trying to get people to sign up for lists. By the way, this is more of a meta-analysis rather than a strictly sim analysis. But this is what happens when you don't have enough people for your lists, and you put. We definitely appreciate the fact that the parties are putting their lieutenant governors and governors on the bottom of their lists, as they should. But this is also an example about why you should always try and fill up your lists with 7 people. Because of the Meta's dual mandate requirements, you cannot be both a lieutenant governor and hold an assembly seat. So, I guess just keep that in mind for future use.
All right, thank you. Let's now go to the party leaders for analysis presentations. Let's start with Guns.
Well, let me just say that the Republican Party is absolutely ecstatic at this result, mainly because we didn't look too good going into that lieutenant governor race. So winning out, even with the Democrats winning 5 seats, is really not that. It's a good thing in a bad situation. You know what I mean? It's like a shining light when it's dark all around. So we're really happy about this, and we're really. Honestly, maybe if Goog could have won too, that would have been a lot better too. But, that didn't happen. So,
thanks. Dems?
Shoot, I think my first comment is like, holy shit, that's crazy. I'm excited about the assembly, first of all, because we just got our supermajority back, and I was the speaker last session. And with Bran, I do want to say congratulations to him. I have worked with him as we kind of worked together in the assembly. Of course, for Democrats as a whole, we are sad to not have a Democrat in the lieutenant governor position, but I still look forward to working with Bran, and especially now with this new supermajority and possible Gouge governorship continuation. It's definitely going to be an interesting dynamic.
Thank you. And that being said, you can see there's already results coming in on the sidebar, and we're making quite a lot of progress. But keep in mind, the trends can change because we're not only going from rural to urban, we're also going from east to west. So congressional districts out west may be reporting results a bit later. That being said, let's now go to the southern state, to Dixie. And in Dixie, we have, again, very average lists for the Democrats and Republicans, just quite a few of incumbents. But for the Greens, we have the party chair, Rahimia, first, followed by several big names in the Green Party. So that being said, let's now go to the polls. And in the polls, the Democrats started off with, in majority territory, but they fallen quite a bit, to 39 in the exit poll. So let's see if they can get their majority and maybe pass that budget they've been trying to pass for 4 months. And so let's looking at the General Assembly results. By 0.4 points, the Democrats managed to get a very narrow majority, giving them 4 seats, while the Republicans are on 31 and the Greens are on 19. So with this result, the Democrats can expect to have a governing majority in the Assembly, although the governorship and lieutenant governorship are still up for grabs. Before we go any further, I believe we have our first projection of the night. Oh no, we have our lieutenant governor result first. And in this race, which, as you can recall, was very tight throughout, the Democrat has exactly the Green. So Cry Defiance will be re-elected as governor with 56 to Jacob and Austin's 44. And this means that the Democrats will have control again of the lieutenant governorship going into this. And with this, we have our first projection of the night. We can the Associated Press can now project on 93% of the precincts reporting that GOOGMASTR has been re-elected as governor of Greater Appalachia, giving the Dems their bifecta in that state. And this was a big update, so let's go to APG and IC for analysis.
Yeah, so I'll start first in Dixie. First off, I'd like to say that I don't think the Greater Appalachia result is anything unexpected, because Goog has been a very successful governor in the state. So I won't really say much about that. That one seemed pretty obvious. But the race between Cry Defiance and Jacob and Austin, definitely more of an interesting scenario there. I'm sure some of the audience knows that Jacob and Austin did not debate, and Cry Defiance had a really pretty good debate. I can't say what if and all that all night, but I think the results would have been closer had the debate scores, not scores, but had the debates been a little closer.
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate that Jacob and Austin boycotted the debate. It's not usually a winning move. If you're trying to win in any sort of race, not debating is generally not good for you. So let's just leave it at that.
Thanks. Party leaders, expectations, and reactions. Let's start with the Dems, actually. Kush, go ahead.
First of all, very excited for GOOGMASTR. This is exactly what we were expecting. I'm just very, very pleased with the margins over Cube. And then with Cry Defiance, also, it's very excited. I think this turned out very good.
Thanks. And Guns?
Well, it's a very disappointing result in Greater Appalachia, but as the polls projected and as most Republican strategists came to the conclusion of that this was an expected result, we hope that Cube doesn't get discouraged at all by these results, and we hope that Cube actually sees this as a way he can grow his margins along with the other candidates in Greater Appalachia. So we see this as a building moment instead of a truly defeating moment in the state.
Awesome. That being said, let's now move up north to Superior. And in the Superior list, we can definitely see here, there's on the Dem side, lots of incumbents. On the Green side as well, quite a few local names in the state party. And in the Republican side, we have DDYT in 5th, and we have Graylat in 4th. Pretty big names in that party. And in the polls, we can see the Dems have the advantage going into this, but they're below majority territory. And given that there's a coalition, they want to be above the 50% line. Let's see how they do in these results. And in these results, we can see the Dems are not quite there. They're at 44. The Republicans are on 38 and the Greens are on 17, which means the Democrats will have 3 seats and the coalition keeps their majority in the state of Superior. After this, we also have to look at their lieutenant governor race, which, as you might recall, was very fiercely contested between the Green and the Democrats for the 2 big coalitions versus the independent candidate, President Dewey, who was the previous lieutenant governor before his mysterious disappearance and has come back as an independent. And in that race, we can see that on 40% of the vote, Dewey pulls out a come-from-behind victory and becomes one of the only major independent elected office holders in recent history, beating out PGF, who was 5 points behind on 35, and Confident, who trails far behind at 24%. And this means President Dewey will be reclaiming his old office as lieutenant governor. That being said, let's see what's up next. And we have a projection from the Associated Press. The Associated Press confirms on 94% of the vote that Compton has been re-elected as governor of Superior, currently leading by 0.3 points after a massive sweep of the western precincts of the state in the 3rd and 4th districts. So this was another big update. Let's start with the ACC's analysis.
Oh my God, comp-ed from the Times here, folks. This is perhaps an amazing surprise win, I think, considering how he even got to the position in the first place. But definitely a hard-fought race by both candidates, especially Nosbold. You'll remember, I'm sure, that she was the Democratic vice presidential nominee. So both heavy-hitting candidates here for this governor race. I'll move quickly to the lieutenant race. Congratulations to Dewey. If I had to take a guess as to why he won, Dewey's a fairly well-known name at this point in Superior, so even running as an independent, I'm sure he accumulated quite a following during his time in the state.
Thank you. And as I might just add as a final point of analysis, it seems that Nasbo's decision not to visit the western half of the state has proven to be fairly unpopular with constituents in those regions, which you can see here has resulted in quite a big blowout for content in both the 3rd and 4th districts, and that seems to have really swung the governor's race. Party leaders, reactions, expectations. Let's start with Guns.
Well, I just got a message from Governor Compt himself, and he told me, quote, "I did not expect to win at all, but I'm very happy to serve." So if that tells you anything, it's that the Republican Party, where we saw that there was a possibility of losing, we are so happy at this race. Like, we're blown out of our minds at the moment that Comp was able to pull this out. And now we're hoping that this same momentum maybe hopefully can translate into the Dixie 4, and we can win that, and Seldom can carry the state of Dixie. And along with the Lieutenant Governor of Superior, we want to say that we believe Dewey and Compt will make a good team. Dewey and Compt are both fairly moderate in their policies, and we believe that they will work pretty good together in that position.
And for the Dems?
These are two very surprising results. Actually, I do want to extend congratulations to both Compt and Dewey. The Lieutenant Governor thing, that's kind of incredible. An independent victory. So congrats to Dewey for pulling that one off. And with the governor race, again, congratulations to Compt. Of course, we're a little, we want Nasball to win, but Compt also seems like a very great person, and so we're not exactly upset with this one.
Thank you. And now let's go to our final states, to the West Coast, and let's go to Fremont. And in the Fremont party list, we have fairly unsurprising list. We have pretty much just incumbents all around, with a few big names for the Greens, such as their two former party leaders, Parada and Underflex Ambassador. But let's look now at the polls. And in the polls, the Democrats had a very, very narrow lead coming into this, but the Greens seem to have taken the advantage going into the exit polls. Either way, the Democrats are far below what they need to keep their majority, and let's see how this translates into results. And in the results, and that's it. The Democrats are on 36, the Greens on 33, and the Republicans on 31, which means the Democrats win 3 seats, and the coalition wins 4, breaking Democratic control of the legislature, which has been going on for a very, very long time in Western. And that being said, I think we are now able to project the final result that is still outstanding. And yes, and in the Governor of Dixie race, the Associated Press can project on 99% of precincts reporting that Governor Tripp has been reelected by the narrowest of margins, less than 0.5%. But with this margin, it means the Democrats will be keeping control of Dixie and actually have established unified control of that state's government. APG analysis.
Yeah, I've got quite a bit of analysis on the Dixie race. First off, I guess congratulations to the Greens for picking up another seat in Fremont, but that's not really the most interesting part of the night. So, Seldom had a much better debate as far as really all marks were concerned. But what it ultimately came down to were the districts, and you can't see the data I have behind the scenes here at the decision desk. But when it officially gets released, Seldom really barely won Dixie's first district, which of course some of the two main keys to taking Dixie are the first and the fourth districts. Seldom very narrowly won the first district, and Tripp really outperformed in comparison. I mean, all of these are very close, but Tripp's margin in the 4th district is perhaps the biggest, or is the biggest of the 4. So I think if Seldon had campaigned there a little more, this might have been a different story. But yes, also her stellar debate certainly helped her case as far as trying to catch up.
Thanks. And
I see you have any.
No, I'm just shocked. Really, this is Seldon's 2nd consecutive loss by less than 1%. So we're entering like MELP territory here in terms of sort of futility in these very, very close races. And it is fascinating that after rejecting Tripp in the presidential race, his own state comes back and re-elects him by the narrowest of margins in his gubernatorial re-election.
Thanks. Party leaders, reactions just on the results so far and in general. Let's start with Kush for the Dems.
I mean, oh my gosh, this is just a night of like razor thin margins. This is congrats to Trips. I mean, this is so close, and he got it. Gosh, I'm having trouble finding words. This has just been like a night of twists and turns, and I'm just very excited for Tripp.
Thanks. Let's now go to the GOP. Guns.
The GOP is very, very, very disappointed with the loss in Dixie's governor's race. We really thought that, given the rejection of Governor Tripp, that in the presidential race that would reflect into a fairly popular Vice President Seldon, being able to win that state. But I guess the voters, for some reason, decided that another term of Tripp was the right path.
Thanks. And with all of that being said, let's look at our final tally. So coming into this election, Dixie had Democrats in both executive offices, and they still will have Democrats in both executive offices, with both incumbents being reelected. In Greater Appalachia, Governor GOOGMASTR has been reelected on a landslide result, while the lieutenant governorship flips from the Democrats to the Republicans, which gives us the first divided government in that state, which should be very interesting. Finally, in Superior, Republicans control the state house, the governorship coming in, and they still will going out, although the Republican lieutenant governor has been replaced by an independent lieutenant governor. And that should also be interesting, the dynamic there. In terms of the legislatures, Atlantic had a Democratic majority coming in, and they will have a split government going out, with the independent holding the balance of power. Dixie, on the other hand, had a Republican majority, but will end up with a Democratic majority in the next term. Fremont does the exact opposite, going from 4 Dems to 3, giving the coalition a majority. Greater Appalachia restores its Democratic supermajority, and in the Superior, no change. The coalition continues to control that state. And that is all for our results. Do we have any concluding remarks from the HCCs?
This may be the least boring state election I think we've ever had, at least post reset. But that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And with that said, and party leaders, do you have any final thoughts? Guns? Anything?
Well, these are some gains. I mean, Republican Party did gain some. We lost some, but we gained some. So we're pretty happy with these results, as they're not as good as we wanted them to be, but they're better than they were. So kinda better than they were. I'm not really sure. But basically the Republican Party is we're happy about Governor Comp. We're extremely happy about that, and we're happy about Lieutenant Governor Brand, and we're happy about Atlantic a lot, along with Fremont and Superior. So that's all we have.
Thanks. And Kush?
I'm kind of speechless. I mean, this is like my first time like commentating, and it's the night that's kind of left me speechless. It's kind of hard. I mean, it's been definitely, yeah. I'm trying to find the words. I don't even know how to describe it. We're excited in some areas, a little sad in others, but very, very interesting night. And overall, I think the Democrats did pretty well.
Thanks. And with all that being said, that brings us to the end of our results show. Thank you to all the candidates who put, and all the party leaders, all the players who put in a lot of hard work for this election. Thank you all for your patience. You know, sometimes the polls and stuff were a bit late. Apologies for that. Thank you all for your hard work. Congratulations to the winners. Commiserations to those who fell a bit short. Other than that, I guess the only things I have to say is congratulations to Dixie for getting a budget. And in terms of meta announcements, we'll be having APG's vote of confidence as head elections clerk fairly soon, as well as a vote on the ballot initiatives proposal. APG, any other announcements, or are we done?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Postmortem should be out tomorrow. Like I said, I've been very busy this week and will be into next week. So I guess this coming week. So if you don't get promptly responses, that would be why. Like Hurricane said, my vote of confidence is coming up soon. I encourage you to ask questions, provide criticism, etc., etc. And then finally, I had proposed this to the party leaders before elections, but considering it looks like most of them will be leaving, I guess I'll propose this when the postmortem comes out, but I'll be providing a list of changes that I'd like to see implemented as far as mod building is concerned, and they'll be more firm than that discussion thread that I originally posted, which I'll post again. Please fill it out so that way I can try and make more informed decisions before the final post comes out. But I think that's it.
Yeah, and I also have a bylaw change in the works to clarify what the powers of the lieutenant governor are, because they're actually quite vague. I'll still be working with party leaders on that, and an announcement will be forthcoming at some point in the near future. But that concludes our election show. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you in a hot sec for the federal midterms at some point. Thank you, and good night.